that receiving core, the talent that they have out there. I know how great the secondary is in New England. However, the rules are tilted in the offensive favor, and they have a genius at designing that offense in Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes is a god. I think that they will give them a significant amount of trouble. Watson certainly did, so I think that Mahomes will be able to do so, and the weather is going to be just fine. It's going to be clear, and Mahomes might cough him up.
Schefter, I'm coming to you next. Buffalo, Baltimore. You got Lamar or the Buffalo defense?
Green, you can give me Lamar versus any defense, and I'm going to take Lamar every single time. He's the most valuable player in the league so far this season, and as good as Buffalo has been, and Buffalo, I think, is one of the unheralded stories of this season. The Bills' defense is excellent. Sean McDermott does a great job. You're still taking Lamar Jackson because he's Lamar Jackson, making moves like this every single time. Woo!
And then, D. Wood, I'm coming to you here. Another monster game this week.
Oh.
San Francisco, New Orleans. You got the San Francisco D or Drew Brees?
I'm going with San Francisco defense. You see that front by the 49ers? And listen, they're good on every level, from the D-line, linebackers, secondary. Those guys will be able to get after the quarterback. I know the New Orleans Saints have a really good offensive line, but this San Francisco 49ers front is no joke.
I know you're wondering to yourself, just how important is this game, Greeny? Well, I'm glad you asked. It has massive implications in the chase for a bye. According to our analytics, if the Saints win, they have a 94% chance to get a bye. Look at the Niners, though. Look what's at stake for them. If they win, look at their chances of getting a bye. And if they lose, it falls all the way down to 35%, because we know that San Francisco and Seattle are fighting it out of the NFC West. And this comes up every few years. I remember Peyton Manning having to go on the road one year to an 8-8 San Diego team in the playoffs. We all remember Seattle hosting a playoff game against New Orleans one year when they had the bad record. And the conversation will come up about whether it's fair or not. Does anyone at this desk believe the NFL should consider changing that? We have the word reseeding up there, but to me it would be more about just flipping home field. Like, you could make San Francisco the 5 seed. I'm just making this up, in Dallas the 4, but give San Francisco home field advantage.
To be clear, the benefit is when you win a division, you could potentially have to go on the road and play a game or if you lose the division, you could have to go on the road and play a game despite having a better record.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
You are.
It's higher stakes. I would understand if I was a fan of a team or I was on a team being upset by that and feeling like it's unfair, but it makes it more entertaining and more fun for us, the fans. So I appreciate it, and the value of winning a division, I think it's important that it means something. It makes this week, the reason why we care about this week so much is in part because of that.
I mean, yes, I get it. Again, I'm not talking about reseeding entirely, but just flipping home field advantage to the team with the better record. We live in a world where the 49ers could wind up 13-3 and open the playoffs at a 7-9 NFC champion, NFC East champion. It could happen. I'm just asking, would we rather see it the other way?
Here's my simple solution. Win the NFC West. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
No,
what's simple is winning the NFC East. Winning the NFC West isn't so simple.
Well done.
I can't say anything. You dropped the mic right there.
Schefter.
The NFL has always viewed it as a reward for winning a division. That a division winner, no matter how much it struggles, should be rewarded. And again, you bring up the example when Seattle won the division and New Orleans was better in the regular season, but had to travel to Seattle.
And lost.
And Marshawn Lynch had the run that resulted in the earthquake in Seattle. And so this is just the way the league is structured. And there are examples that come up like this every now and then. But by and large, the league has liked it and believed that it was justified to reward the division winner with a home
And I think
game.
Because of that, teams build their team around trying to win the division.
Right.
And that gives us unique styles of play from the division to division, which makes the games more entertaining. And the drama at the end of the season, the drama from having a first-round bye in a home playoff game to losing and might have to go on the road to play in all 3 rounds, like those stakes make it more fun.
Well,
I like that.
Nick, you know this. Like, the very first thing that when you report to off-season program, the very first thing coaches always talk about, division.
Win your division.
Win the division. It's the easiest way to get into the tournament.
Well, look, I mean, there was that year that New England was 11-5 and didn't get into the playoffs, and other teams had far better records, but they didn't wind up in a wild card spot. So yes, the integrity of the divisions is significant. I'm not even necessarily saying I think this is wrong. I'm just throwing the question out there because you know it will be raised. San Francisco and Seattle right now look like 2 of the 3 best teams in the NFL, and one of them is going to open in Philly.
I certainly,
Not Dallas?
Or Dallas. I'm just saying. I mean, Philly just lost to Miami. They're going to host a playoff game.
I think you're right that it's unfair, but so is the way that they make the schedule. Like, the schedules aren't unfair. So there are some teams that get a much easier road throughout the season. So it's unfair, but it makes it more fun. So I'm in on it.
All right, enough of this reality. Let's talk about fantasy. Schefter, I've got fantasy questions for you. And let's start with Dalvin Cook. Everyone's in their playoff else this week?
Yeah.
Just a situation with Dalvin Cook.
Including me with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. I think Dalvin Cook right now, they're going to limit his work during the week, and I think he's going to play on Sunday. He said he's definitely playing on Sunday. You heard his conversation and comments after the game on Monday night. You can look for him to be out there. If you have him, you play him.
Okay, and how about the Falcons wide receivers?
Well, listen, interesting here because we got Julio Jones limited in practice on Wednesday with a shoulder injury. Calvin Ridley limited with a toe injury. 2 wide receivers, both limited. I think the sense is that they may have both available for the Falcons, but this is something you want to pay attention to the injury reports as the week progresses so we have a better idea about whether you're playing Jones or whether there's somebody else.
Well, this is a particular interest to me because I'm playing in ESPN Fantasy Football with IBM Watson, and I've got these 4 receivers. I got to choose 2. Who am I taking?
You're only choosing 2?
2 of these 4.
See, again, I think you have to play Cooper tonight because you don't know that Julio is going to play on Sunday. So if that's the case, you play Cooper tonight and you pick one of the other guys.
All right, be interesting. I've been riding Jamison Crowder, and it's been working for me, but we'll see what winds up happening. Okay, Schefter, I'm glad that you're here.
Yes. Because
I want to talk about Michigan. And Schefter, as we all know, is a Michigan man, and this has been a big part of the conversation here, there, and everywhere this week. Michigan, after being blown out by Ohio State again this weekend, dropping their coach, Jim Harbaugh, to 0-5 against his team's biggest rival. And I did an on-camera essay this week that got a reasonable amount of attention in which I said, I don't think that Harbaugh is the problem. I think the expectations might be identified as the problem. And I've got Acho here who covers the sport for us. But I really, before we get to him and his analysis, I just want your emotion. I mean, you love this stuff as much as anybody I know. What is your take on what happened there?
There's been so much talk. It's disappointing that they can't beat Ohio State. And it just feels like the program has fallen behind Ohio State. It's just a notch below. It just is these days. Everybody keeps coming back to Jim Harbaugh. And should the Michigan Wolverines fire him or get rid of him? Is he going to the NFL? I don't get where all this talk is coming from. It seems like, and maybe I'm wrong, it's more fan-based, more media-based than it is fact-based. Now, again, I don't cover that team. I'm not dealing on a daily basis, but all this conversation about moving on from Jim Harbaugh, you were right. The expectations are a little bit out of whack compared to what he's done for that program. He shouldn't be going anywhere. There's not a coach, I don't believe, that they could get that's better than Jim Harbaugh right now. I haven't heard of him leaving for the NFL. I haven't heard any of this, but it keeps coming up over and over and over again, and it seems like it's generated in other places, not where it really matters.
The problem, Schefty, is to have that mentality is now to be complicit with the fact that Michigan just isn't elite. They're really good, but they're not elite. People ask the question, is Harbaugh the right guy for the job? And he's the right guy to lose to Ohio State, but win 8 to 10 games a year. That's who he is. Keep in mind, though, the 2 coaches that preceded Harbaugh, and Hoke and Rich Rod, they were 24-32 in conference. Jim Harbaugh wins 80% of his games against teams not named Ohio State. So, Greeny, the problem is Michigan fans are either going to have to do 2 things. 1, accept reality that they're not elite, or 2, go try to find a coach who is elite.
Who would that be?
And that's my point. I don't know that you do it because let me tell this story. Texas with Mac Brown, they got rid of him after winning 9 games and winning 8 games. He had a 76% winning percentage in his career. Texas has sputtered since they got rid of Mac. So if you do get rid of Harbaugh, the grass is not always greener on the other side.
Michigan did that. They got rid of Lloyd Carr and then bounced around, and it didn't work. And they got back the guy that everybody wanted, who still is the right guy in my mind for that job. And maybe it means that they need to do a better job of developing the players. Maybe it means they need to do a better job of recruiting. That's not my feel. I'm just telling you, I still think he's the right guy for the job.
Assuming then that they're not beating Ohio State and they're winning 8 to 9 games. I think that is the problem.
Well, and one of the things that's going on is that Ohio State is in a little period of time, and Urban Meyer created it because he's one of the greatest coaches of all time, where they may not be surpassable.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is some people are just unlucky. Like, if you were coaching in the SEC at the height of Nick Saban, you were going to be made to look bad because he's that good.
It's the same thing right now, Greeny. It used to be Alabama. In the ACC, now it's Clemson. In the Big 12, it's OU. And in the Big 10, it's Ohio State. And you're exactly right. There are teams right now that are playing at an elite level, and those are the teams.
It'll be interesting to see. But for right now, I would be very surprised if he's not their coach again next year. Tonight, we have a Big 10 ACC Challenge women's basketball doubleheader on ESPN, and you can see it on the ESPN app. Number 9, Maryland, taking on number 13, NC State, 7 Eastern, followed by Syracuse and Michigan in Ann Arbor. That's all tonight on ESPN. As we continue, if the Cowboys are going to beat the Bears tonight, they need to succeed in one area. We'll tell you why Dak and Zeke need to play